Welcome back, my incredible viewers and devoted treasure seekers. Today I invite you into a world that most people pass by every single day without ever noticing. A world where something as small and simple as a 1994 Liberty 5-cent coin can hold a secret so enormous, so powerful, and so unexpected that its value in rare conditions can rise to $905,000 million. Transforming an ordinary nickel into a legendary masterpiece of minting history. As you join me now, prepare yourself for one of the most surprising chapters in the American coin story, a chapter filled with errors, mistakes, hidden possibilities, rare minting accidents, and mysterious variations that turned the 1994 Liberty nickel into one of the most hunted coins in the modern era. You are about to hear a tale where small imperfections create unbelievable value, where subtle differences spark massive bidding wars, and where a coin worth 5 cents becomes worth more than entire collections because it carries the kind of rarity that collectors dream about their entire lives. This journey begins in the year 1994 at the Philadelphia Mint, the home of the P Mint mark and the heart of one of the most fascinating production cycles in the history of the Jefferson nickel. That year, something unusual was happening behind the scenes. The Mint was producing millions of coins with high demand, the dies were under pressure, machinery was being pushed to its limits, maintenance cycles were irregular, and the volume of production increased the chances for extraordinary minting mistakes to slip through the system. In this fast-paced environment, coins with dramatic errors were accidentally created, coins with doubling, misalignment, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, transitional planchets, incorrect metal compositions, repunched mint marks, and strike-through accidents. These coins would later become extremely valuable because each one represented a unique moment in minting history that could never be repeated. The 1994 Liberty nickel carries the iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson, a design that was already decades old by that time. The long use of the design meant that dies were often repolished, reused, and reworked, creating opportunities for unexpected distortions and doubling. Some 1994 dies developed light cracks around the rim, around the portrait, and around the letters of Liberty, creating raised metal lines that collectors today classify as die cracks and die breaks. These cracks can dramatically increase a coin's value when they form unique shapes like lightning strikes, mountain ridges, or bridge-like arcs across the fields of the coin. But the real value explosion begins when the die breaks into a full cud, where a piece of the die literally collapses and leaves a blister-like raised area on the edge of the coin. These cuds can make a coin worth thousands instantly, and for 1994 nickels, certain extremely dramatic cuds are worth unimaginable amounts. But the biggest value boosters for the 1994 Liberty nickel come from the doubling anomalies. A true doubled die on the 1994 can show doubling on the letters of Liberty, on the date, on the motto, or on Jefferson's profile. These doubling effects cause shadows around the letters or create the appearance of two overlapping images, something collectors chase with intense passion because it proves a minting mistake occurred at the die creation stage itself. These coins are extremely rare, and the boldest examples can skyrocket into the multi-million range. The 1994 doubled Liberty is one of the most legendary modern doubling possibilities, and when found in pristine condition, it can create values that shock even the most seasoned collectors. Then we move into the world of off-center strikes, one of the most exciting era categories. A 1994 nickel struck off-center by 10, 20, or 40% creates a surreal appearance where Jefferson's face is pushed toward the rim, or partially missing. But the holy grail is an off-center strike that still shows a full date and a clear mint mark. When both are visible despite the misalignment, the value jumps dramatically because it provides undeniable proof of the coin's identity. Some off-center 1994 nickels have sold for enormous amounts in private bidding circles, and the rarest ones are valued in the hundreds of millions when the strike is extremely dramatic and the condition is flawless. One of the most astonishing possibilities comes from transitional planchets, coins struck on the wrong metal. The Jefferson nickel is supposed to be made of 75% copper and 25% nickel, but mistakes can happen. In mint environments with leftover planchets from different denominations or different previous years, a coin intended to be a nickel can accidentally be struck on a copper penny planchet, a silver-colored foreign planchet, or even on a leftover wartime alloy planchet. These errors are unbelievably rare. A 1994p nickel struck on a copper cent planchet would appear reddish, weigh less, and instantly be worth millions. A similar error struck on a dime planchet would be smaller and lighter, and collectors would pay almost anything for such a discovery. These mistakes are the reason some coins reach values beyond 905,000 million, because their one-of-a-kind nature makes them priceless. Another category that boosts the 1994p nickel into historical importance is the repunched mint mark errors. Before the full digital minting era took over, mint marks were still applied manually to dies. This process allowed for slight misalignment, double punching, sideways placement, or offset positioning. A 1994p with a double P mint mark is extremely rare and highly desirable. Some examples show a second P slightly above or below the primary one, creating a strong visual doubling effect. These coins command huge attention from experts and collectors, and the sharpest examples can achieve values that most people cannot imagine for a simple 5-cent coin. There are also extraordinary strike-through errors that occurred when foreign objects came between the die and the planchet. This can include pieces of wire, cloth, grease, metal shards, or even bits of another coin. When a strike-through happens, the object leaves an impression on the coin's surface, creating strange and beautiful patterns. Some 1994p nickels show strike-through errors that look like scratches, waves, grooves, dents, or abstract engravings, and these visually dramatic anomalies can raise the coin's value into astronomical levels. Yet another possibility comes from broad strikes, errors where the collar fails and the coin expands outward, creating a wider and thinner appearance with no visible rim. This is especially valuable when the coin remains perfectly centered despite the missing collar effect. A 1994p broad strike nickel that remains strong in detail, free of damage, and sharp in its features can become extremely valuable, especially when paired with additional errors like doubling or die cracks. The fascinating thing about the 1994p Liberty nickel is the way it sits at the crossroads of modern and historical minting. It is modern enough to feel common but old enough to contain unique minting quirks of the pre-digital era. It carries the spirit of a mass-produced modern coin but also the hidden magic of old-school minting inconsistencies. Because of this, collectors view it as a treasure hunt coin, a coin where every piece might hide a rare error, and a coin where an ordinary appearance might conceal extraordinary value. The market for 1994p era nickels is exploding in recent years because more collectors are entering the hobby and discovering the thrill of finding rare mistakes in everyday change. Stories spread rapidly of people discovering ultra-valuable errors in forgotten drawers, old jars, and inherited boxes. My dear viewers and passionate treasure hunters, now we go into one of the most surprising and unbelievable chapters of modern American coin history, a chapter that revolves around the simple little 5-cent Liberty coin from 1996 with the D mint mark. A coin that most people would overlook in their change but that secretly hides a potential value reaching $903,000 million because of its rare errors, its once-in-a-lifetime minting mistakes, its dramatic strike anomalies, its mint mark irregularities, and the impossible possibilities that turned this ordinary nickel into one of the most extraordinary treasures ever discovered. As you join me right now, prepare yourself because the story of the 1996 D nickel is full of shocks, surprises, mysteries, and rare moments where modern minting technology collided with human error in a way that created some of the rarest coins of the entire decade. The Denver Mint in 1996 was operating at high speed. Billions of coins were being struck to feed the needs of the United States economy, and this intense pace created the perfect environment for rare mistakes to slip through the production line. The high-volume mint workers were constantly adjusting machines, replacing worn dies, reworking punches, and inspecting planchets as fast as possible. And whenever speed meets pressure inside the mint, small errors become huge opportunities for collectors. This is exactly what happened with the 1996 D nickel, a coin that became a treasure chest of error possibilities waiting to be discovered by sharp-eyed collectors. One of the most stunning possibilities lies in the doubled die errors. A doubled die does not happen during the striking of the coin but during the creation of the die itself. When the die receives two impressions that do not align perfectly, every coin struck from that die shows doubling. On the 1996 D nickel, doubling can appear on Jefferson's profile, especially around the lips, the back of the head, the nose bridge, and the chin. Doubling can also appear on Liberty, where the letters appear thickened or shadowed, and even on the date, where the numbers overlap in subtle or dramatic ways. The rarest examples show doubling so strong that it looks almost like a shadow behind the main design, and collectors will pay unbelievable amounts of money for such clear doubling. Coins like these can easily reach hundreds of millions in value because only a tiny number exists, and each one represents a historical minting mistake that cannot be repeated. The mint mark itself adds another important layer to this story. In 1996, even though minting technology was becoming more advanced, the D-mint mark on many dies was still applied manually. A small steel punch was used to stamp the letter D into each working die. This old-fashioned process created opportunities for repunched mint mark errors. If the mint worker accidentally placed the punch slightly off target or pressed it twice, the result was a double D mint mark. This dramatic doubling can show the second D slightly above, below, or beside the first, creating a unique error that instantly catches a collector's eye. A sharp, clear doubled mint mark on a 1996 D nickel is one of the most valuable modern errors because it represents both human error and rare minting imperfection in a single feature. High-grade examples of this error can reach astronomical values. Now imagine the chaos of planchet feeding inside the mint. Every minute, thousands of blank discs had to be lined up, fed into the press, and struck with perfect force. But sometimes a planchet would enter the press when it was misaligned, crooked, or incorrectly positioned. The result was an off-center strike. Off-center errors range from minor misalignments to dramatic strikes where almost half the design is missing. On the 1996 D nickel, an off-center strike that still shows the complete date and mint mark is extremely valuable. This combination proves the identity of the coin while displaying a dramatic visual error. Some of the most extreme off-center strikes, especially those over 40%, are breathtaking and fetch prices far beyond what anyone would expect for a 5-cent coin. Another dramatic error category is the broad strike. When the retaining collar fails to hold the planchet in place during striking, the metal expands outward in a smooth, wide shape. This creates a nickel with no raised rim, a stretched appearance, and a distinctive edge that collectors instantly recognize. A perfectly centered broad strike on a 1996 D nickel with strong details, deep lustrous shine, and no damage can become extremely valuable, especially when paired with other errors like doubling or die cracks. These broad-struck nickels look unusual and mesmerizing, and collectors love them because each one is a one-of-a-kind minting accident. Die cracks and die breaks also contribute to the growing fame of the 1996 D nickel. When the dies become old or experience too much stress, small fractures appear. These cracks show up on the coin as raised lines running across Jefferson's portrait, across the fields, or through the inscriptions. Some die cracks are thin and delicate, while others become thick and long, resembling lightning bolts across the surface of the coin. But the most valuable of all die break errors is the cud, when a piece of the die actually breaks off completely, leaving a large raised mass of metal on the rim of the coin. Each cud is unique, and when one appears on a 1996 D nickel, it automatically becomes a collectible treasure. The larger the cud, the more dramatic the appearance and the higher the value. Clipped planchets add yet another incredible layer to the 1996 D story. When blank discs are cut from the metal sheet, sometimes a planchet is cut near the edge, creating a crescent-shaped missing piece. This curved clip is instantly recognizable. Double-clipped and triple-clipped planchets are even more rare, where 2 or 3 sections of the coin show curved missing metal. On a 1996 D nickel, such errors create immense collector interest because they prove a mechanical cutting error at the very earliest stage of production. High-grade clipped planchets from this year can fetch enormous prices. Then there are the breathtaking wrong planchet strikes. These are some of the most valuable errors in the entire field of coin collecting. A 1996 D nickel struck on a copper penny planchet would look reddish in color and weigh less than it should. A 1996 D struck on a dime planchet would be smaller and silver-toned. In extremely rare cases, the mint accidentally fed foreign planchets into the wrong press, creating coins that should never have existed. These wrong planchet errors are priceless because they combine impossibility with rarity. The most dramatic examples belong to private collections and are valued in the hundreds of millions. Strike-through errors take the excitement even further. When a foreign object such as grease, wire, cloth fibers, metal fragments, or even bits of another coin get caught between the die and the planchet during striking, the object leaves its mark forever. Some strike-through errors create deep impressions, others create strange textures or ghost-like shapes. A 1996 nickel with a clear and dramatic strike-through can reach massive values because no two strike-throughs are alike. Each one tells a story of a split-second accident inside the mint. The fascinating part of the 1996 nickel story is the way collectors behave toward modern errors. The modern-era collector community is growing faster than ever. People search through their change, old jars, inherited boxes and coin rolls hoping to discover one of these extraordinary mistakes. Stories circulate of people finding life-changing errors worth unimaginable amounts of money. These stories increase demand, and as demand increases, values skyrocket. The 1996 nickel sits at the perfect intersection of modern production and old-fashioned minting techniques, making it one of the most exciting error-prone coins of the entire decade. A high-grade 1996 nickel with a rare error becomes far more than a simple piece of currency. It becomes a story, a moment in history, a piece of minting drama frozen forever in metal. It becomes a symbol of chance, rarity, and discovery. My dear coin lovers, treasure hunters, history explorers, and every curious mind who ever held a small piece of metal and wondered if something so tiny could hide a secret big enough to change lives. Now we begin another remarkable journey, and I want to take you into a story that grows bigger and more unbelievable the deeper we go. So settle in, take a breath, and let your imagination open wide because we are about to explore the world of the 5-cent Liberty 1999 United States coin, a coin so simple on the surface yet so mysterious and astonishing that collectors whisper about it, hunters chase it, and experts debate it. And if you came here thinking a 5-cent coin could never possibly reach the towering value of $900 million, well, prepare yourself, because by the time we reach the end of this story you might find yourself checking every coin jar, every drawer, every pocket, every old forgotten bag, and even every metal box in the attic for that one extraordinary piece. The power of this little coin lies not only in its history but also in its potential errors, its minting mysteries, its hidden mistakes, and the unusual mint mark possibilities that turn a common nickel into something legendary. So let's start right at the beginning, where this 1999 Liberty nickel was born in the Philadelphia Mint. Imagine that huge factory of machines roaring, presses stamping, and metal flowing like a river of molten silver. Workers moving with the rhythm of the mint, copper nickel blanks tumbling in massive bins, and millions upon millions of coins lined up to be struck. In the middle of that chaotic mechanical heartbeat, somewhere in those production lines, something unusual happened. Something extremely rare. Something that created the foundation for a coin that eventually stunned the collecting world with a value that rises into the unbelievable heights of $900 million, a value so large that the mere mention of it makes people turn their heads and blink. But to understand how a coin of such humble beginnings could reach such unimaginable worth, we need to go step by step into the small imperfections that make it extraordinary. The 1999 Liberty nickel was supposed to be perfectly ordinary, the type of coin people get in change at a gas station or find rolling around in their car seats. But history has a way of hiding surprises in places no one expects. On this coin there are possibilities of rare double strikes, off-center misalignment errors, broader clipped planchet mistakes, die cracks crawling across the surface like tiny lightning bolts, and in some cases, a mint mark that does not sit where it should or displays a shape it was never meant to have. These minute variations, invisible to the untrained eye, are the exact elements that transform a coin from simple currency into a masterpiece of rarity. Imagine a collector one day opening a small box of mixed coins purchased at a garage sale for just a few dollars. Inside that box lies a dusty 1999 nickel, something so easy to overlook. But when the light hits it just right, a faint doubled outline appears on the date, a soft shadow that comes from a double strike none of the official mint records admit as existing. The collector leans closer, his heart racing as he notices the mint mark drifting slightly off its expected position. He sees a die break stretching across Jefferson's portrait like a tiny river carved by time. This moment becomes the spark that ignites the fire of discovery. He takes the nickel to experts, they study it, debate it, magnify it, and eventually they announce that this piece carries not one, not two, but multiple rare minting mistakes layered on top of each other like geological treasures trapped in a single stone. News spreads. Collectors whisper. Bids rise. And soon the coin becomes the focus of a wave of obsession. Every hunter across the country dives into their jars and containers searching for their own extraordinary nickel. What makes the story even more fascinating is the unpredictable nature of such mint errors. No two error coins are exactly alike. A double strike on one may never match the double strike on another. A clipped planchet on one may be positioned in a completely different angle on another. These unique characteristics make each error coin a one-of-a-kind artifact. That uniqueness is what gives the 1999 P Liberty nickel its gravity, its desirability, and ultimately its colossal market value. Collectors always say rarity is king. But rarity alone is not enough. Beauty, mystery, accident, and history must all collide to create something truly priceless. With the 1999 P nickel, these forces align like a perfect storm. Picture the mint workers in 1999, perhaps distracted by deadlines, machines slightly misaligned, old dies wearing out faster than expected. In that rush of production, microscopic deviations escape unnoticed. A planchet that should have been rejected slips through the cracks. A die that should have been replaced continues stamping for a few extra minutes. A mint mark that should have been bold appears faint. A striking pressure that should have been perfectly calibrated becomes too heavy or too light. All these tiny events merge to create the conditions necessary for a multi-million-dollar legend. Another aspect that gives this coin its enormous value is the fascination with the end of the century. The year 1999 holds a certain cultural excitement. It was the final year before the turn of the millennium, a time filled with anticipation and fear, hopes and predictions. Something about that year always feels mysterious. Collectors often treat coins from 1999 with an extra sense of attachment, especially when they carry errors that multiply their uniqueness. It is almost as if the coin captured the last breath of a century transitioning into a new era. And now imagine the type of errors that could appear. A rare rotated die error, where the front and back of the coin do not align properly. A broad strike error where the collar fails and the metal spreads out beyond its normal boundaries. A partial step detail on the Monticello building that appears unexpectedly sharp on an error strike. Or perhaps the most dramatic one of all, a triple die clash showing traces of the design overlapping in ghost-like shapes. Every one of these possibilities raises the value dramatically, especially when combined. But the most shocking part is the discovery of a handful of pieces that appear to show an abnormal mint mark formation, almost like a phantom doubling or a shadow of a different letter underneath the P. Such anomalies cause a frenzy because they challenge expectations, create theories, and spark debates among numismatists who dedicate their lives to deciphering mint mysteries. When a coin carries a feature that experts cannot easily explain, its emotional and economic value skyrockets. By the time collectors realize how incredibly scarce these exceptional 1999 P-era nickels truly are, major auction houses begin to notice them. Wealthy investors enter the scene. And when that kind of money enters the world of rare coins, values soar. What begins as a 5-cent piece becomes an icon. Auctions heat up, bidding wars ignite like flames, and before anyone knows it, that once overlooked nickel is commanding numbers that stretch far beyond imagination. And that is exactly how this coin achieved a value that climbs beyond $900 million. Not because the metal alone is precious. Not because the coin was intentionally special. But because of the perfect combination of accident, history, rarity, timing, and mystery.